for your time tonight.
Thank you, Liz. Nice being with you.
So you are taking credit for assisting in some way through Revere America, your political committee, more than 40 House races, successful House candidates, and 8 successful Senate candidates. That is a lot. To what degree were you involved in those races? Not all of them the same.
Well, you're right, and certainly we're not claiming credit. We're just saying we were active and helped in those 44 successful races, and it varied. In virtually every one of them, we sent out emails, letters, and phone calls. We sent out over 300,000 letters, but in some of them we actually did media, television and radio. So it varied from district to district, but overall we were involved, I think, in about 70 different races, of which 44 were successful challenges, and we're very proud of that.
You had 2 of them in New York that you had paid TV ads in. One of them was New York 19, and John Hall was defeated by Nan Hayworth, the Republican. The other was New York 23, where Bill Owens, the Democrat, managed to hold on. You spent close to $1 million in the 19th Congressional District. Do you think if you had spent more in New York and perhaps none in New Hampshire, where you were successful with the candidates that you backed, if you had spent maybe in the 1st Congressional District, then if things wouldn't be so up in the air there between Tim Bishop, the incumbent, and Randy Altshuler, for example?
Well, after you know the results, it's always easy to predict the outcome. But a lot of the facts are just incorrect. We didn't spend nearly $1 million in the 19th district. It was probably less than half that. And we were involved with media in the 19th and the 23rd. But sure, when you look back and say, well, this race was close and that race was close and this one was a blowout, you'd rather be able to reallocate from the blowouts to the close ones. But, no one has a crystal ball. And a lot of these races looked very close right up to the last minute, and a number of them were very close and still are.
You had, close to the end of the campaign, you had John Boehner sign on to your petition. This is all about, we should remind viewers, although they've seen you speak about it before, the getting what you call Obamacare, the health care reform law, overturned. That's what this repealed. That's what this is about. He signed on. Have you spoken to him about that?
Well, repealed and replaced. We want to enact new reforms. And not only did John Boehner sign on, he was the first in Congress to sign on and took our pledge that he would work to repeal and replace it. And I haven't talked to him since the elections. I intend to in the next few days. And I'm confident that he will do that. And what I'd like to see, though, is that not just repeal, but as part of that repeal, that we enact new reforms that the American people will look at and say, this isn't simply about getting rid of a bad law, it's about advancing provisions of a good law. And I hope that that's what the new House leadership does when it takes power January 5th.
Similarly to what's going right now in New York, which is that the Republican Party is a little bit at odds with itself, John Boehner's being challenged for the leadership position by a Tea Party candidate. I mean, what do you believe that he'll actually manage to hold on?
Oh, I've avoided Washington like the plague, but I have no reason to believe that anyone other than John Boehner will be the next Speaker of the House. I think he did an excellent job during the course of the campaigns, and I think he has some very good ideas for an agenda moving forward. And we'll see what happens. I'm not about to tell the new majority what they should do, but I think just looking at where we are, that he's been a very successful leader in the minority, and there's no reason he wouldn't be a successful speaker. But
the influence and the role of the Tea Party going forward is something that a lot of Republicans are concerned over, and also here in New York. I mean, at the 11th hour, you issued a press release endorsing Carl Palladino, who had called you, as we've gone over numerous times here, a degenerate idiot, and then subsequently had to sit down with you and apologize. Why did you back him? You said that perhaps you wouldn't. We were talking here on the show about it.
Well, I think it's important you have a vibrant two-party system in this state and in Washington. We've seen over the last 4 years in Albany, one-party government is a failure. It doesn't work. It's not in the interests of anyone, including the party of which its representatives control the government. And we saw the same thing in Washington for the last 2 years. One-party government can ram things through if they have the power, as they claimed in Washington, but it's not where you get the best policy that embraces what the American people want. not. So knowing the state pretty well, and I think I do, I thought that having a closer race in the governor's race would have really helped people like Harry Wilson and Dan Donovan, both of whom were great candidates, and both of whom were unable to overcome being right behind the head of the ticket that lost by over 1 million votes.
But that's the point, though. It didn't turn out to be close at the top of the ticket, and now some people are saying, in fact, State Chairman Ed Cox says it's because of Carl Palladino, who maybe hurt people down ballot, Harry Wilson and Dan Donovan. Do you believe that's the case? For example, if maybe Steve Levy, who Ed Cox tried to have run, switching parties.
If we had gotten behind a gubernatorial candidate early in the process and been able to get that candidate the nomination, I think whether it was Rick Lazio or Steve Levy or someone else, if they had had the time to get in front of the people of New York, to get their message out there and to let the people know them, I think we would have done far better. There's no question about that. When you have a candidate who's largely unknown until the day after the primary, it's very difficult in a state where there are more than 2 million of the other party to be able to get your message out there. And we didn't do that this year. And I think it's unfortunate because, I'm pleased. We did restore two-party government in this state. We apparently have won back the state Senate. We apparently have won 7 Democratic House seats that have flipped to Republican. We've made gains in the state assembly, significant gains in the state assembly, all of which helps create a better, stronger two-party system. But I'm still incredibly disappointed that when you have great candidates like Harry Wilson and Dan Donovan, that because, in significant part, because of the failure at the top, they were unable to get elected.
Okay, so the failure at the top means the state chairman, Ed Cox. There are people who say that he should go now. Are you one of them?
Well, that's for the party leadership. That's for the county
you are the party leadership
and the public officials. And I'm not going to get in the middle of that debate.
Well, but Governor, with all due respect, I mean, you are the party leadership. You are.
That's all, whenever you start out with all due respect,
I'm sorry.
I know I'm in trouble.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But you are one of the most well-recognized people. You are the last Republican who held the governor's office. People look to you for leadership. You stumped all over New York and the nation for candidates. Why not come out and say the Republican Party needs new leadership?
Well, because it's not for me to pick the next leader. I think it's for Republicans to sit down, as Democrats should do too, and do an analysis of the election. Say, where were we strong? Where were we weak? Where did we miss opportunities? And why did we miss those opportunities? And then put together a plan, an action plan, to take advantage of opportunities that we didn't this time. Now, what that plan will be, I don't think you can, shortly after election, say changing one person or changing this from this direction to that direction is going to do it. You have to look intelligently at where we did well, where we did not do as well as we should have, and then make the changes that are going to move us forward.
Well, and actually, though, would you blame the state chairman? You say a failure at the top. Would you blame him for, say, failure of having a good get-out-the-vote effort? Because really, that's what the Democrats did. They outworked you on the ground.
Well, I'm not sure exactly what the ground game was on the two sides, but we need to have a stronger state party. We need to have a stronger statewide ticket. Both of those things are apparent, and how we do that, we'll see it going forward.
You have lived through a transition, and one of the first things that you did when you came on, actually, you hadn't even taken office yet. There was a change in the Senate leadership, if I remember correctly. It was Marino, and you had that person. You had him replaced with Joe Bruno. You supported the replacement of Marino.
I supported it.
Right. Do you think that Andrew Cuomo should do the same? Should he seek to change the leadership in both houses, either one of the houses of the legislature?
Well, I think we are going to see a change in the leadership of the Senate because I think Republicans will have a majority, and I think that's going to be a help to Governor-elect Cuomo, because he will have someone, a majority that is, if in fact he intends to carry forth what he was talking about, reducing the size and the cost of state government, not raising taxes. I think you should lower taxes. Then he'd have a strong partner in the new leadership in the state Senate, and God knows we need new leadership in the state Senate. The old leadership was not just politically bad, but according to the Inspector General, very likely corrupt. With respect to the Assembly and Speaker Silver, that's something for the Democrats in the Assembly and for Governor-elect Cuomo to work out. And I don't know that they'd listen to my advice if I were to give it, but I don't intend to.
But having your own person who is heading up the conference in either house. Now, arguably, if what you say is true and the Republicans control the Senate, then the Democrats would be controlling the Assembly. That would be a natural alliance, right? Andrew Cuomo is a Democrat, although perhaps a little bit more fiscally conservative than the majority in the Assembly. Would it not behoove him then to have someone?
Let us hope so.
To have someone of his own.
Let us certainly hope so.
Of his own supporting?
It really doesn't work that way. Yes, I supported Senator Bruno replacing Senator Marino as the leader in the state Senate, but he wasn't my leader. He was the leader of that conference, of that caucus, and we had our battles. We had, as you well know, we had a number of very difficult battles, largely over spending and interest groups and things of that nature. And so it's not simply a situation where the governor has the ability to impose his leader. That's for the members of that caucus, and I'm sure they're going to reach out and talk with Governor-elect Cuomo. He is the leader of their party, as they should, but whoever it is would certainly, hopefully, put the interests of the state of New York first, but also be acting in the interest of their caucus as opposed to the governor.
So we're done now with 2010 officially, with the 2010 election cycle, and everybody is starting to talk about 2012 already, and I'm going to ask you again what your plans might be.
You know, at this point, I don't have any plans. You know, when I look back at the last few years in Albany and in Washington, I think we've had really a failure of leadership. And I think in part it's because we haven't elected people who have had executive experience, who have run things, who have been challenged by tough times, who have shown they can get different groups to work together for a common agenda. And as I look at the many, many candidates who will be out there on the Republican side, that's one of the things I'm going to be looking for. Do we have a tested leader who has shown the ability to advance an agenda successfully? And I'm certainly not making any decision for myself right now because as of today, there's not one declared candidate. And I'm going to see who else is out there, what their ideas and background and record is, and then make a determination.
Okay, it doesn't sound to me like you've closed the door.
No, I haven't. I haven't opened it. I haven't closed it. I think we need change in this country. I think for all the change that people voted for on Tuesday, we're still going to have the wrong leadership in Washington, and I want to be very active in helping us to bring about a change in that leadership. And what role? Whether it's supporting someone else or possibly as a candidate, you know, I'll decide that as I look at the field and the issues develop over the course of the next few months.
Do you think you could support Sarah Palin or Rudy Giuliani, for that matter?
Well, there are many candidates I could support, and when you look at the background that President Obama had, he was a state senator who, on any controversial issue, just voted present. He wouldn't even take a stand, yes or no. And I think we're paying for that now. So I think having someone who has been an executive, has been in leadership, and has succeeded is important.
Well, Governor Pataki, I want to thank you very much for joining us tonight. It's good to see you. I'm sure we'll be talking to you again soon.
Nice talking to you, Liz. Thank you.